Maria grew up in a simple neighborhood, surrounded by a close-knit community, where everyone knew and helped each other. Daughter of a worker in a small workshop and a seamstress, Maria learned from an early age the value of hard work and honesty. Determined and intelligent, she always excelled in her studies, winning a scholarship to a prestigious university, where she met João. João, on the other hand, came from a rich and traditional family. His parents, Paulo and Helena, were influential figures in society, known for their successful businesses and high social position. João and Maria met at a university event and quickly fell in love. The connection between them was undeniable, a combination of complementary personalities and shared interests. John was enchanted by Mary's determination and independent spirit, while she appreciated John's generosity and worldview. Despite their differences in background, their love blossomed, leading them to become inseparable. However, Maria always felt a certain anxiety about how João's family would react upon meeting her, given the difference between their social conditions. Paulo and Helena, João's parents, were known for their strictness and the high standards they imposed, not only in their personal lives, but also in those they considered worthy of associating with them. They had a traditional vision of how things should be, including the type of person they imagined for João. With a fortune built over generations, João's family owned a large house in an upscale neighborhood of the city and participated in social events exclusive. They expected John to follow in the same footsteps of success and respectability. When John announced his engagement to Mary, his parents were surprised and, in a way, disappointed. For them, John's marriage was more than a loving union. It was an extension of the family's interests and prestige. They did not know Maria personally, but her humble background and lack of an influential family line raised concerns. Still, to support their son's decision, they decided to organize a formal dinner to get to know the woman he planned to marry better. João hoped that the meeting would help his parents see Maria for who she really was, an intelligent and caring woman. On the night of the dinner, Maria was nervous but determined to make a good impression. She carefully chose an outfit that was elegant but not ostentatious, and practiced the good manners she had learned over the years. Upon arriving at João's parents' house, Maria was welcomed by a luxurious and opulent environment, with refined decoration and details that highlighted the family's sophisticated taste. João accompanied her, trying to reassure her with words of encouragement. But the critical look from Paulo and Helena as soon as she opened the door made it clear that the night would not be easy. Dinner began with small talk and an atmosphere of forced politeness. Paulo and Helena asked questions about Maria's family and her future ambitions, but the underlying tone was judgmental. Helena, in particular, made subtle comments about Maria's potential and the difficulty of growing up in a less privileged environment. Maria, maintaining her composure, responded clearly and confidently, but every word seemed measured and analyzed. João tried to mediate the conversation, but he felt the tension increasing every minute. As the dinner progressed, the questions became more pointed. Paulo, with an almost professorial tone, began to question Maria's career choices and whether she really understood the sacrifice necessary to live up to the social expectations that João's family maintained. Helena, with a cold smile, made a point of highlighting how life with João would require an adjustment of behavior and attitude. Maria, feeling increasingly uncomfortable, realized that this wasn't just about getting to know her, but about testing her ability to fit into their world. The night ended with a feeling of defeat for Maria. Although she maintained her dignity and calm, it was clear that João's parents saw her as unsuitable for their son. John, in turn, was torn between his love for Mary and his loyalty to his family. He knew that facing his parents' disapproval wouldn't be easy, but he also couldn't ignore the fact that Maria had been treated unfairly. The experience left Maria with a feeling of inadequacy, and she began to question whether the relationship could truly overcome these barriers. The formal dinner at João's parents' house was planned as an important occasion, where Maria would be officially introduced to the family. Paulo and Helena prepared an elegant evening, with an exquisitely decorated table, full of silver cutlery and fine crockery. The house, a symbol of the family's status and wealth, exuded luxury and sophistication. Maria arrived at the place feeling a little out of place, but determined to show the best of herself and prove that she was worthy of being at Joao's side. From the beginning of the evening, it was clear that Paulo and Helena were more interested in judging Maria than in getting to know her. Paulo, with his rigid posture and evaluating gaze, began asking seemingly harmless questions about Maria's family and academic history. However, there was a subtle tone of disdain in his words, as if he was underlining the difference between Maria's worlds and that of her family. Helena, in turn, maintained an icy smile as she watched Maria, occasionally interjecting with comments that seemed like compliments, but had a hint of sarcasm. As dinner continued, Paulo and Helena's comments became more direct. They disparagingly mentioned the difficulties of growing up in a poor neighborhood and the limitations that a humble background could impose. Helena made a point of highlighting how lucky Maria was to be engaged to Joao, suggesting that she should be grateful for the opportunity to rise socially. Joao, sitting next to Maria, felt the tension increase and tried to intervene, asking his parents to change the subject. However, their attempts to mediate the situation were in vain. Maria, trying to maintain her composure, responded to the questions and comments with as much dignity as she could muster. She knew that any more emotional reaction could be used against her. However, the pain and humiliation he felt was palpable. Paulo and Helena's comments were not just condescending. They were a direct attack on his self-esteem and his origins. They questioned not only their suitability for John, but also their own identity and value as a person. The situation became untenable when Paulo, apparently trying to be helpful, suggested that Maria could learn a lot from their family, especially about how to behave in society. Helena agreed, adding that Maria could benefit from some etiquette tips. At this moment, Maria felt that she had endured enough. In a firm voice, she thanked him for his hospitality and stated that, despite her humble origins, she was always taught to treat people with respect and dignity. Joao, realizing that the situation was out of control, insisted on ending dinner early. He was visibly uncomfortable, torn between his love for Maria and his desire to please his parents. Maria, upon leaving, thanked her again for dinner, but there was an evident sadness in her eyes. She knew that, regardless of how she behaved, she would never be truly accepted by Joao's family. Paulo and Helena, although courteous in the end, were unable to hide their disapproval. The night ended with a bitter feeling. Maria and Joao left the house in silence, both lost in thought. For Maria, the experience was a painful reminder of the social barriers and prejudices that still existed. For Joao, it was a harsh lesson in the challenge of reconciling his love for Maria with his family's expectations. They knew that, if they wanted to stay together, they would have to face not only Paulo and Helena's prejudices, but also the expectations of the entire society around them. After the humiliating dinner at Joao's parents' house, Maria felt devastated. Upon returning to her modest home, she could not shake her thoughts of Paulo and Helena's cruel words. Feeling inferior and devalued, Maria spent hours reflecting on what happened, going over every sarcastic and derogatory comment. That dinner, which should have been an opportunity to solidify her union with Joao, turned into a nightmare, shaking her self-esteem and leaving her deeply hurt. The next day, Joao went to Maria's house, eager to talk about what had happened. He was worried about the impact of his parents' actions and wanted to find a way to repair the damage. However, when they started talking, it became clear that Maria was deeply hurt. She talked about how humiliated she felt and how Paulo and Helena's words made her doubt her worth. Maria was visibly emotional, and her voice shook as she expressed her pain and frustration. Maria, with teary eyes, explained to Joao that, despite loving him deeply, she could not ignore the fact that she would always be seen as inadequate by her family. She felt that no matter how hard she tried, she would never be accepted for who she really was. Maria told Joao that she needed time to think and decide if she could continue in a relationship where she would always be judged and belittled. John, on the other hand, tried to console Mary, insisting that their love was strong enough to overcome any obstacle. However, Maria was determined. She explained that she did not want to be a source of conflict between Joao and his family, The prospect of spending her life being the target of prejudice and contempt was unbearable for her. Maria then made the difficult decision to move away from João, believing that this was the best choice for both of them. She wanted to spare herself further suffering and allow John to resolve his own family conflicts without the additional complication of their relationship. João, torn between his love for Maria and his loyalty to his family, found himself in an extremely difficult situation. He knew that his parents' feelings would not change easily and that Maria deserved better than the treatment she had received. However, João also felt a strong duty to fulfill the expectations of his family, who always expected him to marry someone of appropriate status. This duality of emotions left him paralyzed, unable to take a firm stance. While Maria tried to move on, focusing on her career and personal life, João felt increasingly lost. He knew that, by not taking a stand against his parents' attitudes, he was betraying the love he felt for Maria. At the same time, João feared that directly opposing Paulo and Helena could result in an irreparable rupture with his family. This indecision and lack of action only increased Maria's pain, as she needed clarity and support. In the following days, Maria and João maintained sporadic contact, but the tension between them was palpable. Mary struggled to find a new balance in her life, while John struggled with his feelings of guilt and duty. Their relationship, once full of love and promise, was now filled with uncertainty and unresolved pain. They both knew that difficult decisions needed to be made, but the path to resolution still seemed distant and complicated. A few years after the painful breakup with João, Maria had transformed into a woman of great success and respectability. Determined to overcome the humiliation and prove herself, she dedicated herself completely to her career. He started with small jobs and, thanks to his impeccable work ethic and keen business acumen, quickly rose in his profession. Maria used each obstacle as a springboard to achieve greater achievements, always remembering the words that had hurt her in the past as a source of motivation. Maria decided to open her own company, specializing in business consultancy, helping other companies grow and prosper. With an innovative approach and a talented team, it quickly stood out in the market. His company's success has been driven by his ability to deeply understand his clients' needs and deliver effective, personalized solutions. With each new contract signed, Maria felt that she was regaining part of her dignity and building a legacy of which she was proud. As her company grew, Maria also became an influential figure in the business world. She was frequently invited to lectures and events, where she shared her inspiring story of overcoming and success. Maria became an inspiration to many women, especially those facing similar challenges to the ones she had overcome. Her life trajectory, from a humble young woman to a successful businesswoman, was a testament to resilience and the ability to transform adversity into opportunities. In addition to her professional success, Maria also found time to dedicate herself to social causes. She was actively involved in charitable projects, focused on education and empowerment of low-income women. Maria knew from her own experience how education and the right support can transform lives. She founded a non-profit organization to offer scholarships and mentorships to young women, providing them with opportunities that she herself had struggled to achieve. This was her way of giving back and helping other women reach their full potential. During this period, Maria received recognition not only for her business achievements, but also for her social impact. She has been honored with several awards, celebrating her contributions to the community and the business world. Maria, however, always remained humble, never forgetting her roots and the lessons learned along the way. She knew that her success was the result of hard work, perseverance, and, above all, never giving up on her dreams. As Maria flourished in her new life, she couldn't help but reflect on the past. The breakup with João and the humiliation he suffered at the hands of his parents were no longer sources of pain, but milestones on his journey of personal growth. She had proven herself to herself and the world, showing that her worth went far beyond her humble beginnings. Maria had become the strong, independent woman she had always dreamed of being, and this gave her a deep sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. Mary had built an empire but also a new sense of identity and purpose. His success was the best answer to any doubt about his value and capabilities. With her bright future and promising career ahead, Maria was ready for any challenge that came her way. She knew that her journey was just beginning and that there was so much more to achieve and offer the world. While Maria rose to success, Joao's family's financial situation began to deteriorate. Paulo, Joao's father, who had always been seen as an astute and successful businessman, began to face a series of business challenges. Several risky decisions, in an attempt to expand his company in a competitive market, resulted in significant losses. Additionally, the declining global economy has severely affected the family's investments, causing a devastating impact on their wealth. Paulo's bad decisions, combined with a lack of adaptation to new market trends, exacerbated the financial crisis. Once profitable businesses began to fail, and longtime partners began to distance themselves, fearing losses. Helena, Joao's mother, who had always enjoyed a life of luxury and social status, found herself struggling to keep up appearances as the family's finances disintegrated. The situation reached the point where the sale of properties and assets became necessary to avoid total bankruptcy. Joao, now an adult and working on his own career, found himself in a difficult position. He wanted to help his parents get back on their feet, but his own resources were limited. Furthermore, Paulo and Helena's arrogance in not accepting that they were in difficulties caused them to initially refuse any help that Joao offered. They continued to live beyond their means, reluctant to adjust their lifestyle to the new financial reality. This denial only deepened the crisis, causing them to take on ever greater debt. Over time, it became clear that the situation was unsustainable. Joao, worried about his parents' well-being and the possibility of losing everything, began to take on more responsibilities. He tried to implement recovery strategies in the family business, but faced resistance from Paulo, who refused to recognize the need for drastic changes. Joao also sought help from friends and acquaintances in the industry, but the family's reputation had already been damaged, and support was limited. Meanwhile, the pressure on Joao increased. He felt the weight of having to balance his own future with his family's urgent needs. Tensions at home intensified, with frequent arguments over what should be done. John realized that his parents, especially Paul, were trapped in the pride and image they had cultivated for so long, unable to accept that their era of success was over. Joao felt helpless, watching his family disintegrate while he tried, in vain, to convince them to make more sensible decisions. Eventually, reality set in undeniably. Joao's family faced foreclosure and the forced sale of their remaining properties. The life of luxury they had known quickly fell apart, leaving them without the basic resources they were accustomed to. The society that once welcomed them with respect and admiration now shunned them, with many distancing themselves to avoid associating themselves with failure. Paulo and Helena, once figures of power and influence, found themselves isolated and demoralized. Joao, through it all, tried to be an anchor for his parents, but he knew he couldn't save them from all the consequences of their actions. He watched his family's downfall with sadness, realizing that the wrong choices and lack of adaptation to the current times had led to this outcome. Joao also began to reflect on his own path and the hard lessons he was learning about pride, humility, and the importance of being open to change. As the family adjusted to a new reality, Joao prepared for an uncertain future, knowing he would need strength and resilience to rebuild his life from the ashes. Maria and Joao's unexpected reunion took place during a major business event, where industry leaders and influencers gathered to discuss new trends and business opportunities. Maria was present as one of the main speakers, invited to share her experience and successful journey as a businesswoman. Her name was already widely recognized in business circles, and she was respected for her innovative vision and effective leadership. Joao, on the other hand, was at the event as a guest, trying to stay up to date and look for new opportunities after his family's fall. When Joao saw Maria on stage, he almost didn't recognize her. She exuded confidence, wearing an elegant suit that reflected her status as a successful professional. As she spoke about her journey of overcoming and the challenges she faced to achieve success, Joao felt a mixture of admiration and regret. Memories of the past came flooding back, reminding him of the humiliation Maria had suffered at the hands of her family and how he had been unable to defend her. Now, Mary was in a position of prominence, while her own life was in disarray. After the talk, João decided to approach Maria during the cocktail that followed the event. He was nervous, unsure of how he would be received. When he finally found her, Maria was surrounded by admirers and co-workers, all eager to talk to her. João waited patiently until she was alone, and then approached, hesitantly. "Maria, it's good to see you after so long," he said, trying to hide his anxiety. Maria turned and recognized him immediately, but her expression was impassive, almost professional. Maria, now a confident and successful woman, maintained her composure when meeting João. She smiled politely and greeted him, without showing any intense emotion. John noticed that Mary had changed significantly. She was no longer the insecure young woman she had known. Instead, she was a respected leader whose presence commanded respect. John, in turn, felt smaller, aware of his current situation and the contrast with Mary's success. He tried to start a conversation, praising her for her accomplishments, but he felt embarrassed by his own past. During the conversation, João apologized for his family's past behavior, acknowledging that they had treated her unfairly. He expressed his regret for not being stronger in defending her and for allowing his parents' opinions to affect their relationship. Maria listened calmly, but maintained a reserved expression. For her, that moment of apology did not erase the painful memories, but it was an important step towards reconciliation with the past. She thanked João for his words, but made it clear that she had moved on. While John tried to explain his current situation and the challenges his family was facing, Mary remained cordial but professional. She knew that the success she had achieved was a result of her own hard work and resilience. Maria no longer felt the need to prove anything to João or anyone else. His confidence came not just from his position or achievements, but from a deep understanding of his own worth. She was grateful for the lessons learned, but also aware that this reunion was just a small part of her journey. The reunion served as a point of reflection for both. João, upon seeing Maria's success and his own current state, began to question his own choices and the impact of his family's decisions. Maria, on the other hand, reaffirmed to herself how far she had come and how the adversities of the past had strengthened her. At the end of the event, João left the place with a mix of admiration and regret, while Maria moved on, more determined than ever to continue growing and leaving her mark in the business world. A few weeks after meeting again at the business event, Maria received an unexpected call. It was Helena, João's mother, who sounded visibly embarrassed and uncomfortable. Helena, always so haughty and proud, now asked to meet Maria to discuss an important issue. Maria, intrigued, agreed to meet her at a discreet cafe in the city center. On the agreed day, Maria arrived punctually and found Helena and Paulo waiting for her, their expressions a mix of anxiety and humiliation. Helena and Paulo, once imposing and self-possessed figures, were now visibly dejected. The financial crisis had led the family to a desperate situation. With their business on the verge of bankruptcy and no other viable alternatives, they turned to Maria, the same woman they had despised years before. Paulo, always proud, looked especially uncomfortable, avoiding Maria's gaze while Helena, with a trembling voice, began to explain the situation. She detailed the financial difficulties they were facing and the devastating impact it had had on their lives. Helena begged for Maria's understanding, admitting that, in her arrogance, she had underestimated and mistreated Maria in the past. She said they were in a no-win situation and had nowhere to turn. Paul, hesitant and visibly embarrassed, apologized for the treatment they had given Mary and acknowledged the error of his actions. He explained that despite his pride, he was there to ask for help. The situation was critical, and they needed financial support to avoid complete ruin. Maria, listening calmly and with a neutral expression, finally saw the opportunity to confront her past. Paulo and Helena's words of apology brought a mix of emotions to the surface. She remembered the humiliation she suffered and how they made her feel insignificant and unworthy. However, Maria also knew that she had overcome those adversities and had become a stronger person. Now, she was in a position of power, able to decide the fate of those who had despised her. With a firm tone, Maria thanked him for the apology and acknowledged that it had taken time to heal the wounds caused at that time. She made it clear that she had never expected or sought revenge, but that she had not forgotten the past either. Maria explained that her help would not be an unconditional rescue. She wanted to see real changes and sincere commitments on their part. To begin, Maria suggested a detailed recovery plan for Paolo's business, emphasizing the need for transparency and accountability. Helena and Paolo, realizing they had no other option, agreed to the conditions imposed by Maria. She offered financial help, but on the condition that they followed her directions and that there was a genuine effort to repair the relationship, especially with João. Maria also demanded that they become involved in community work, as a way of reconnecting with the roots of the community and better understand the value of respect and humility. Maria's proposal was not just to help financially, but also to promote a change in attitude and perspective. At the end of the meeting, it became clear that this request for help was not just about money, but about a process of reconciliation and learning. Maria stood up, leaving João's parents with a mixture of relief and apprehension. They knew this was an opportunity for redemption, but also a chance to show they could change. Maria, in turn, felt a sense of closure. She had faced the past with dignity and now, with a new perspective, she was ready to move forward, knowing that she had become the strong, whole woman she always wanted to be. The final confrontation took place in an intimate and tense environment at Maria's house. After requesting financial help from João's parents, Maria decided it was time for a frank and direct conversation about the past and present. She invited Paolo, Helena, and João to a private meeting, where everyone could openly discuss their feelings and the consequences of their actions. Maria's warmly decorated living room became the stage for an emotional and necessary confrontation. Maria began the meeting with a firm voice, recalling the fateful dinner years ago. She described how she felt humiliated and devalued, not only as a person, but also as a woman and professional. Maria emphasized that Paolo and Helena's words that day had a profound impact on her self-esteem and the course of her life. She talked about the pain of being treated as inferior and how it motivated her to prove her worth, not just to others but to herself. João, sitting nearby, listened attentively, visibly uncomfortable as he relived those memories. Paolo and Helena, sitting opposite Maria, listened in silence. They were clearly disconcerted, but they also felt the need to face criticism. Helena tried to intervene, apologizing again and explaining that her actions were influenced by prejudices and social expectations. She admitted that they had judged Maria unfairly and superficially. Paolo, with a guilty look, added that he now recognized how hurtful and unnecessary his words were. He confessed that pride and arrogance blinded them to Mary's true nature. João, who until then had remained silent, finally spoke. He expressed his deep regret for not having defended Mary when she needed it most. João admitted that, at the time, he was torn between his love for Maria and the pressure of pleasing his parents. He recognized that this lack of action was a serious mistake and that by not supporting Maria, he had also contributed to the pain she felt. João looked at his parents and, with a firm voice, said that he could no longer tolerate attitudes based on prejudice and discrimination. Maria, touched by João's sincerity, continued to talk about the importance of mutual respect and empathy. She explained that the success she achieved was the result of hard work and resilience, and that it shouldn't have been necessary to prove herself to anyone. Maria highlighted that everyone has the right to be treated with dignity, regardless of their origin or social status. She made it clear that although she was willing to help John's family, she hoped to see a genuine change in his attitudes and behavior. Paolo and Helena, now fully aware of the impact of their actions, promised to work to improve and learn from their mistakes. They recognized that life had given them a hard but necessary lesson in humility and acceptance. Helena, with tears in her eyes, asked João to forgive them and that everyone could move forward as a more united and understanding family. Paul, in turn, expressed gratitude to Mary for her willingness to help, even after everything that had happened. At the end of the meeting, there was a sense of relief and hope in the air. Maria, João, and their parents had finally confronted the ghosts of the past and were ready to begin a new chapter. The conversation was an important step towards healing and reconciliation. Maria felt that by facing the past with honesty and courage, she had finally left the weight of humiliation behind. For João and his parents, the meeting was an opportunity to reflect on their values and priorities, and to rebuild their relationships based on respect and equality. After the intense final confrontation, Maria, Paulo, Helena, and João were left reflecting on everything that had been said. The mood in the room was charged with emotion, but there was also a sense of relief at finally having faced such painful and unresolved issues. Maria, who had led the conversation with a mix of firmness and compassion, knew the next step would be crucial. She understood the importance of forgiveness, both for her inner peace and for the possibility of a more harmonious future for everyone. Maria began to speak, with a soft but determined voice, explaining that forgiving Paulo and Helena did not mean forgetting the past or minimizing the pain she felt. She clarified that forgiveness was a necessary step to moving forward, but that she needed to see real, consistent changes in her attitudes and behaviors. Maria set some clear conditions for the financial support she would offer. Paulo and Helena would need to commit to attending counseling sessions, both to deal with their personal issues and to learn to deal with the pride and prejudice that had blinded them. Paulo and Helena humbly accepted Mary's conditions. They recognized that change wouldn't happen overnight, but they were willing to do the work necessary to become better, more compassionate people. João, upon hearing the plan, felt a mixture of relief and hope. He knew that his family's journey of reconciliation with Mary and with himself would be long, but he felt optimistic about the prospect of a more positive future. John also recognized that he needed time and effort to rebuild Mary's trust. With Mary's forgiveness, a new chapter began to unfold. João and Maria, now more mature and aware of the complexities of their lives and relationships, began to explore the possibility of getting back together. Maria, however, made it clear that she wanted things to happen naturally, without rush or pressure. They agreed to give themselves time to rediscover who they were as individuals and as a couple. João respected Maria's space, aware that any reconciliation must be built on a solid foundation of respect and mutual understanding. During the following months, Paulo and Helena worked diligently to fulfill the conditions set by Maria. They attended counseling sessions and began to get involved in community activities, which helped broaden their perspectives and develop deeper empathy for others. This experience not only brought them closer together as a couple, but also helped them build a new relationship with Maria and João. Maria watched the positive changes with satisfaction and felt that her decision to forgive had been an important catalyst for this transformation. Meanwhile, the relationship between Mary and John flourished in a new context of respect and equality. They began to share more about their lives and expectations, communicating openly and honestly. João was determined not to repeat the mistakes of the past and committed to supporting Maria in her decisions and challenges. They rediscovered the love they felt for each other, but now with a new maturity that only time and difficult experiences could provide. Maria felt safer and more valued, knowing that João was by her side unconditionally. In the end, the process of forgiveness and reconciliation brought a deep sense of renewal for everyone involved. Maria, João, Paulo, and Helena, despite the challenges and heartaches, managed to find a path to healing and growth. Their journey wasn't easy, but their commitment to forgiveness and change made all the difference. Maria, in particular, felt strengthened and satisfied for having taken the path of forgiveness, transforming a painful experience into an opportunity for growth and renewal for everyone. After the reunion and reconciliation, the characters' lives took new directions, marked by an atmosphere of renewal and hope. Maria and João, now united by a deeper and more mature understanding, began to collaborate on new projects, both in the personal and professional fields. They decided to join forces in a social initiative, taking advantage of Maria's business skills and João's experience to create a foundation aimed at supporting young people from humble beginnings, offering them opportunities for education and professional development. This project not only reflected their shared values, but also solidified their commitment to building a better future together. João's parents, Paulo and Helena, went through a process of introspection and redemption. They recognized the flaws in their past attitudes and began actively working to become more compassionate and open people. Attending counseling sessions and getting involved in community activities helped them develop a new perspective on life. Paulo, especially, found a new purpose in teaching young entrepreneurs about the importance of ethics in business, while Helena dedicated herself to charity projects, helping families in vulnerable situations. Maria and João, on their new journey together, became even closer as a couple. They found a harmonious balance between their professional and personal lives, sharing moments of joy and overcoming. The foundation they created was thriving, and they were both actively involved in its operations, organizing events, mentoring, and workshops for promising young people. The foundation's success has become a symbol of their ability to turn challenges into opportunities, and they have become an inspiration to many. The relationship between Maria and João's parents also evolved positively. Over time, Paul and Helena became grateful to Mary not only for her generosity, but also for her ability to forgive and lead with compassion. They began to treat her not just as João's partner, but as a daughter, respecting and supporting her decisions. Maria, in turn, saw a genuine change in them and accepted their support, creating a new kind of family, built on the foundation of mutual respect and understanding. While Maria and João built their lives and worked together on their projects, they also dedicated themselves to strengthening their personal bonds. Travel, new hobbies, and time spent with friends and family brought joy and renewed your relationship. Overcoming previous adversities had created a solid foundation of trust and respect, allowing them to face any challenge head-on, knowing they had each other. This strong, positive union prepared them for any future they might face. The story of Mary, John, Paul and Helen is a powerful example of overcoming and personal growth. They each faced their own internal and external struggles, but together they managed to turn these experiences into something positive. Their journey reminds us that no matter the circumstances, it is possible to change, forgive, and rebuild. It's a lesson in the importance of humility, empathy, and hard work in building relationships and life in general. In the end, Mary, John, and their parents not only reconciled with the past, but also created a bright and promising future. They became examples of resilience and strength, showing that, with determination and the right support, it is possible to overcome any obstacle. Their story ends with a message of hope and inspiration, highlighting the human capacity to grow, learn, and, above all, forgive.